What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Surprise Jab Podcast. I'm your host, Zachary, your spice with new topics every single week of the year and jabbing you with your daily dose of UFC. And you already know we're back, brand new episode, and we got your UFC 327 predictions. This is such a slept-on card, and one thing I love about this is with this new deal with Paramount, we kind of analyze the main cards of UFC pay-per-views a bit different than we used to, since you pay, what do you pay, $7, $8 a month, and you get 4 events, so you're not really paying $90 for 5 fights, so we kind of weigh them differently, and I think this is a super fun card for what they're giving us down in Miami, Florida. Main event, Jerry Prochaska, Carlos Ulberg. I'm absolutely pumped for that. I'm actually going to be in Nashville, Tennessee this weekend. I'm pumped for that, so I already know we're going to have this on at the bar no matter where I'm at. So predictions for every single fight on this card incoming on today's episode. As well, we're going to be recapping the Final Four, talking about what has went down. I absolutely nailed my predictions. I felt like it was a pretty easy Final Four to predict, but we're going to talk about the 3 games and what we think is next for a lot of the teams and especially a lot of the players, because you're probably going to see a lot of guys going into the draft. So we'll be kicking off today's episode with that, but for starters, I'm debating about what I want to open today's episode with, and I think what I'm actually going to open the episode with is just going to be a little update of the UFC rankings. We had a couple of movements, nothing I would say too mind-blowing, but just a couple things to reference in terms of the updated UFC rankings. So for starters, first change, women's bantamweight division. Bia Mesquita, the undefeated 7-0 Brazilian with 7 finishes so far, 2-0 in the UFC with 2 subs, moves into the number 15 spot. And I absolutely love this placement for her. Very deserved of getting into the rankings. And I'm pretty sure she already has another fight booked against someone outside the rankings. So she's one of the hottest prospects in the women's bantamweight division, a division which is so dead. So dead. I mean, the division is maybe the worst. The heavyweight division competes with it, but in terms of the 3 women's divisions, easily the worst. I think Bia Mesquita can make it exciting, because I don't care what her style is. If you're finishing every fight, it's going to get people talking about you, and you have a 100% finish rate, all of the wins coming by submission. I absolutely love her, so excited to see what they do next with her. Happy to see that she's ranked now in the UFC official rankings, which is good. Women's flyweight up next. Miranda Maverick drops down 1 spot. She was tied with Karine Silva at number 9. She's now ranked at number 10. No word on what's next for Miranda Maverick, but I suspect, I'd like to see someone like a Wang Kong try and climb the rankings, taking her on, or even like a bounce back fight with Tracy Cortez or something. Lots of options to do there, but Miranda Maverick, good job to her. In terms of the women's flyweight division, we have no word on Valentina Shevchenko. Is she taking on Natalia Silva next? Is she rematching Manny Fioran? I don't freaking know, but we really need to get some Valentina Shevchenko fight news, because it is already April, and we've pretty much out until June booked, and we don't have a single women's title fight even in the talks. So clearly we got to do something, because these divisions are losing it, really are. All right, women's flyweight, the last change for the women's. Tabitha Ricci drops down to number 8 following her defeat. Did she lose, or did she fight this? No, she fights this weekend. No, Tabitha Ricci didn't. Something just happened to Tabitha Ricci, didn't it? She lost to Virna Jandiroba. I was just gonna say I recognized that she had just fought. So yeah, she drops down 1 spot. Amanda Lemos passes her. Tabitha Ricci just has a ceiling. And I just thought that Vera Jandiroba, the number 3 ranked women's strawweight on the planet, was too high for her, and I was correct. Now, what is more of Tabitha Ricci's, level? Well, she's beaten Amanda Ribas at 10, lost to Vera Jandiroba at 3, so you kind of have, she's also lost to Jan Chonin at 4, so I'll say you have that 5, 6, 7, and the 9 range here. I don't know if Jessica Andrade is still fighting, but Tabitha versus Jessica Andrade would be my recommendation, unless they make her fight for her spot in the top 10. Then my other recommendation, Alexa Thanera or Fatima Klein. A lot of options there, but tough stuff for Tabitha Ricci. And as for Amanda Lemos, still at number 7 at 38 years old. Wow. Women's pound for pound and men's heavyweight, no changes whatsoever. Same goes for men's light heavyweight. We will be diving into that division and the heavyweight later on today's episode. For the middleweight division, Anthony Hernandez is no longer tied at number 6 with Joe Pyfer. He's ranked solid at number 7. For Anthony Hernandez, his only loss is to Sean Strickland, so I would not knock him too much. In terms of what's next for him, though, it's kind of tricky to place him. I still don't understand how Brendan Allen can be ranked above him at 4. Like, literally, he beat Brendan Allen last year. I do not understand the logic whatsoever, but Honestly, I'd say Randy Ramirez living in the division, though, so probably has to fight Gregory Rodriguez or Christian Leroy Duncan. They're definitely going to make him defend this spot, but he's down to number 7. It happens. Welterweight division, no new changes there. The big fights, of course, we have Jack Del Maddalena versus Carlos Prates coming up. You have Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley. You have Bilal Muhammad versus Gabriel Bonfim. There's word that Ian Gary's taking on Islam Makhachev. Lots of moving pieces in the division, so it's pretty healthy right now. For men's lightweight, the biggest change of the weekend and the final thing that I'll be discussing with you is Renato Moicano moving up from 10 to 9. Great work for Moicano. I mean, look, the guy is in his entering the latter stages of his career, and he's getting dominant wins like he did over Chris Duncan. You know, Chris Duncan, you're of the past, my guy. You got a long way to work your way back. And for Moicano, in at number 9, there's a lot of options on what to do with him. I think a great option is Paddy Pimblett. I think you can main event a London card. I think you can slap it as a co-main event on a pay-per-view. That is the money fight to make, and Moicano is all about his money. So excellent work there. For the number 10 and number 11, who all drop one spot, Maurice DeRuffy at 10 is taking on Michael Chandler on the White House card. He's doing perfectly good. And for Rafael Fiziev, it's back to the drawing board. I don't know what to do with him. Maybe Fairs I Am, I think, could be an option, but tough stuff there. So Renato Moicano moving up to number 9. Good stuff for you, my guy. If not a Paddy Pimblett fight, I don't know who else. Dan Hooker? Does he take on winner of Matus Gamrot and Esteban Rijovic? I don't know, but a lot of interesting ranking updates. You know, like I said, we have a big featherweight fight this weekend. Do we have anything in the bantamweight division? I don't think anything's going on at bantamweight or flyweight. The major flyweight news, of course, Joshua Van and Tatsuo Taira is being moved to the frickin' UFC 328. So we're not even getting that this weekend. We're supposed to have 2 title fights, and Joshua Van had to go out and get injured. So those are all your little rankings updates, everything you need to know with this latest rankings update, which went down today on April 7th. Now, I'll tell you some stuff that has been going down over the last few days, dare I even say the whole month, and that was March Madness. That's right, March Madness came, March Madness went. Was it the best year? No, it wasn't. It was not a bad year at all. This was a good year of March Madness, but I just feel like this is just another year where a lot of like the best team here, Michigan, who obviously won the entire thing, really dominated the entire tournament, you know, and I'll start with the 2 games first, but then we'll go into the run Michigan had to get here. So first starters, we open the Final Four, UConn, Illinois, easily. Honestly, the championship was really good, but I might have Illinois and UConn as the better game. I know UConn won by 9, but Illinois had it close the entire way. I mean, it was really close in the second half. You know, Illinois just kind of couldn't bury at the end, and, you know, the Huskies pulled out by a bit. But, I mean, really good work. Terrace Reed dropped 17 points and 11 rebounds. You had Kay Wagler dropping 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists. He led the team in every stat category. And at the end of the day, I mean, it just kind of came down to, you know, the three-point shooting. 23% for Illinois, 36% for UConn. They made 6 more triples. All right, that'll be the difference maker right there. Turnovers, Illinois had 8. They did out-rebound UConn, which is very interesting. And, you know, they only led for 8% of the game. So pretty embarrassing there. UConn's biggest lead was at 14. It's just how it goes. I will say, Lucas Oil Stadium popped out 72,000 in attendance. Crazy work. Crazy work. So good job to UConn, game past Illinois, and the Fighting Illini making it to the Final Four was just not something I saw happening. You know, I definitely had them beating Penn, but honestly, I thought North Carolina was going to come out of there. Moving on into the, you know, latter half of the, what would that have been? The south side of the bracket. I honestly had Houston coming out of that, and then for Illinois to make it to the Elite 8, I mean, I'd have easily had, you know, definitely Florida coming out of there, but no, they made it through there and falling to UConn, one of the best teams that we've seen with what Dan Hurley's done. Not too bad to knock themselves. So good job to UConn advancing to the championship. For Illinois, you had a great run, but just kind of came up short at the end. As for the other game, number 1 Michigan and number 1 Arizona, I just knew Arizona wasn't going to win, but they could have at least made it close. Michigan blows out Arizona 91-73. Just embarrassing. At one point, they were up by 30 points. Okay? Arizona didn't lead at all the entire game. All right? And mind you, Arizona out-rebounded Michigan, only had 1 more turnover than Michigan, but here's where they get you. They shot 35% from 3. Michigan shot 44%. They shot 68% from the free throw line. Michigan shot 81%. In terms of total field goals, 37% to 48% in favor of Michigan. So, dominant work there. Shout out to Mara. I mean, just absolutely killing it. Ade Mara, just the 7'3" giant out of Spain. 26 points, 9 boards. You know, what's his face? Koa Pete. He did the best he could. He was a star in this one. 16 points, 11 boards, but just couldn't do it. I will also say a 10 assists for Elliot Cadeau, starting guard for Michigan. Very impressive work. Shout out to him. But yeah, just domination for Michigan. At the half, they were up 16, and they literally laxed off and still managed to win by 18 points. Just crazy work. Crazy work. Yaxel Landenborg, the star player for Michigan, actually had 11 points and got injured. We didn't know if he'd be in the championship game. Spoiler alert, he was. And other than that, Morris Johnson got 10 points. Also, Trey McKinney off the bench, 16 points. Just crazy work. Made 4 threes. Dude's an absolute dog. So, interesting run for Arizona this year. Obviously, coming in as the number 1 seed. Blows out Long Island. Gets past Utah State. Arkansas, we thought would be a challenge. They beat them by 21. We then think Purdue's going to be a challenge. They beat them by 25. It's almost just like this was a completely different team when they played Michigan. And watching the game, Michigan was ahead in every aspect. They kept getting turnovers, driving down the court. They just looked more well-oiled, and it paid off. So, Arizona, you were supposed to make the Final Four. Like, statistically speaking, every 1 seed should make the Final Four. Unfortunately, you fell to the giant, which is Michigan, which wins their first, I think, March Madness in like 37 years. So, good job to them. But I got a little ahead of myself there as, yes, Michigan and UConn took each other on in the championship. And just as I correctly predicted with our Final Four predictions, UConn and Michigan both win, and Michigan takes home the championship. 69-63. It was a good championship. Good championship game. Heading into the half, Michigan was up 4, but, second half, it was back and forth. And it really came down to the end. At one point, it was 63-67. UConn banged in a tremendous 3. I can't remember if it was Terrace Reed or who hit the shot. It might have been, was it Terrace? I swear it was, might have been Silas, or it might have been Solo Ball. I think Solo Ball might have hit it, but it was really good. Then obviously Michigan gets fouled. They shoot their 2 free throws, and then just a bit. UConn just couldn't pull it together. It's kind of frustrating to watch them, and this is what's coming from someone who was rooting for Michigan. But I obviously want the game to be close, and UConn just did the best they could, but the Michigan defense was too locked in. They forced an awful shot from Alex Karaban. But I will say Alex did the best he could. The senior from Massachusetts, he was an absolute dog. 17 points, 11 rebounds, played 40 minutes. Okay, in case you're wondering, yes, the entire game is 40 minutes. This guy literally never came out. Played the entire game. Shout out to bro, absolutely killed it. But yeah, just putting up a lot of rough shots, I'll say. He was shooting the 3 well, but just not well enough. Terrace Reed had 14 boards for him as well, which is impressive. And as for Elliot Cadeau, 19 points and 2 assists, gets it done. Yeah, crazy work that Michigan, who was such a good assisting team, just did not have much this game. UConn out-rebounded them, but Michigan outshot them at the field goal line, at the free throw. By the way, Michigan only made 2 threes. Okay, I want you to know, 69 points, only 6 of those were from threes. That's crazy work. 25 of them from free throws. Just wow. Michigan led 75% of the entire game. At one point, they were up 11, and man, game flow was all over the place. There was at one point, it might have been in the first half, like early on, there was a 42% chance that Connecticut was going to win. Yeah, with 4 minutes left in the first half. And then right when we entered the second half, Connecticut just continued to drop. Never even peaked over 15% for winning percentage. So great work for Michigan, 37-3. And there is this thing called like the Ken Pom stats. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's been true every year about there's only a select number of teams that could win. This year it was either Michigan or Duke, and lo and behold, Michigan got it done. Now, my only question is, if Duke had made it, would Duke have won? I don't know. I really don't. This Michigan team looked really good following their run here. Actually, let's give a quick shout to UConn for their run. They had a great run this year as the 2 seed. Blows out Furman, gets past UCLA, which was a tough team, gets past Michigan State. What a game. The upset of Duke was incredible. Probably the best game of the tournament was that UConn-Duke game, hands down, and then dominates Illinois 71-62. So amazing work for UConn as the 2 seed to get back here again in the last 4 years. Was it 4? It's either, I think it's in the last 4 years. UConn's made the championship 3 years, three of the 4 years. So impressive work there. But shout out to this Michigan team. I mean, this Michigan team took no easy games, right? Blows out Howard. Blows out St. Louis, who I think was everyone's favorite Cinderella team. Gets past Alabama by 13. Blows out Tennessee by 33. Just incredible. Blows out Arizona. Only reason they didn't win by over 20 is because they sat all their main stars. And then the Chipper literally dominates the entire game over UConn. Just great work from the Wolverines. Your 2025 to 2026 champions. And all you can do is applaud, man. All you can do is respect the greatness that they have. First championship win in 37 years. So we look ahead to next year. It's fun. I know that there's going to be a lot of stuff going on, with next year about who's gonna get done. I think it's in Detroit next year's Final Four. I don't freaking know, but it was a good year overall. I'll say I picked Duke again, but I did have a Michigan bracket, so shout out Michigan getting it done. Technically, I had a correct bracket, so very happy about that. But with that, March Madness 2026 commences. Kind of sad it's over. It is legit my favorite sporting event of the year. I will take March Madness over UFC. That may be a hot take for me. I will take March Madness over UFC. I would prefer March Madness over the Super Bowl, NBA Finals. My hockey friends are going to hate this. I like it more than Stanley Cup. I just love tournaments and the fact it's single game elimination. This is one of the few sports where you get to see upsets like this. I absolutely love it. So March Madness 2026, I bid you adieu. And with that, we look ahead to the bright future of UFC 327. So we have a number of fights. I hope they're done adding some. They added a bunch overnight when I did all my pre-podcast notes, and I think we're finally locked in. Looks like we're going to be rocking with, I'm pretty sure, 12 fights. 12 fights are supposed to be 13. Tetsuo Taira and Joshua Van. Damn you, Joshua Van getting injured, but we'll dive in. A lot of these I'm torn on. Okay, a lot of these I'm torn on. A lot of these I don't want to look at the odds for because there are just some juicy underdogs on here. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here's your official UFC 327 preview and predictions. Getting off our card, we're in the men's welterweight division as Charles Chuck Buffalo Radke. I have not covered a Charles Radke fight in far too long. Takes on Francisco Prado. This is one of those fights, guys. I was telling you, it's just the underdogs are so appetizing. But for the tail of the tape here, Charles is 11-5. Francisco is 12-4. 1 inch in height goes to Francisco. 3 inches in reach goes to Charles. They both fight in the orthodox stance. There is a 12-year age gap here. Charles is 35. Francisco is 23. Me and Francisco, the same age. I'm out here being a little slave to the corporate empire, and here's Francisco, 23 years old, kicking off a UFC numbered event. That's freaking awesome, Francisco. Now, Charles comes in as the minus 240 favorite against the plus 205 underdog, Francisco Prado. Now, there is a reason for that, but first, let's start with Charles Radke. Born in Chicago, he now fights out of Salem, Wisconsin. Boo! Why would you leave the great city of Chi-Town for Wisconsin? L. Charles L. 8 of those 11 wins are by finish, 5 KOs, and 3 subs. And of his 5 defeats, he's been knocked out 3 times. He was actually supposed to fight Jose Henrique, a debuting welterweight, last week on, it was at UFC Vegas 115. Instead, he'll be fighting this week against Francisco Prado. Now, Charles is, kind of average. He's 3-2 in the UFC, wins over Gilbert Urbina, Matthew Semmelsberger, and most recently in November, he submitted Daniel Frunze. Now, obviously, he was better than all those guys. When he's fought in actual good competition, Carlos Prates knocked him out in round 1, Mike Mallet TKO'd him in round number 2. So, yeah. But to be fair, the 2 guys he's lost to are literally 2 main events coming up here. Mike Mallet versus Gilbert Burns, Carlos Prates versus Jack Della Maddalena. So, Charles Radke fought in some tough competition. I've seen the striking utilized. I've seen the grappling utilized. And no one will forget. Actually, he's 4-2 in the UFC. I forgot his Blood Diamond fight. Who could ever forget the Blood Diamond fight of UFC 293? That was a great occurrence. So, Charles comes in this one as the favorite against the underdog, Francisco Prado. And the only reason that is for the life of him, Francisco Prado cannot win a freaking fight. This guy has suffered all 4 defeats in the UFC. He's 1-3. For goodness sakes. The Argentinian has moved to Miami and trains out of American Top Team. 12 wins, 12 finishes. Unfortunately for him, his only finish 3 years ago against Ottoman Azatir. Other than that, In his debut, lost a tough decision to Jamie Malarkey. In 2024, lost a fight of the night to Daniel Zellhuber. In 2025, lost a close decision to Jake Matthews. And in 2025 at UFC 318, lost a split decision to Nicola Verkanina. Now, I'll be honest, I think that Francisco Prado is super talented. I think he's super good, but he just keeps losing. And look, we've seen him deal with striking. We've seen him deal with grappling, but just for the life of him, he can't win a freaking fight. So I don't know. I still do like him in this fight. I can't lie. I've predicted him in every single one of his fights. And I 3 times now, you'd think I would learn, and I don't think I'm going to learn here. As, Charles Radke, look, beating Daniel Frunza does not earn you, thumbs up, candy points on my scorecard. No. I like, because, you got to pick underdogs. Every card has an underdog win. And honestly, I think we're going to get some dogs on here. I'm going to go Francisco Prado, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why. I just think he's a better overall fighter. Okay, now, one point I'll also add is it's not like Francisco's been, knocked down. It's not like he's been in, trouble of being submitted. He's just kind of been casually outstruck, sometimes maybe even outgrappled, and it's just kind of been his downfall. So, Francisco Prado, you're 23 years old. This is literally make or break. They're not going to keep you if you don't win this here, and you should beat Charles Radke. Now, Charles Radke is obviously tough. He's a veteran, but we're going to ride with the 23-year-old, our man, Francisco, the Argentinian Prado. Not his nickname, but could be. Next up, middleweight division. I cannot believe this boy has bulked on up to middleweight, but Vicente the Silent Assassin Luque makes his middleweight debut to take on Calvin Gastelum. Well, Calvin back at home in the middleweight division. Calvin is 21-10 with a no contest. Vicente is 23-12 with a draw. 2 inches in height go to Vicente along with 4 inches in reach. He fights orthodox. Calvin fights southpaw. And Gastelum at -260 is the underdog, or the favorite in this one. Luque at +210 is the underdog. I always say it backwards for some reason, but Calvin Gastelum is the favorite somehow. I don't know how, but he is. The 34-year-old from Arizona has 10 of his 21 wins by finish, so a whopping below 50% finish rate. Of his 10 defeats, he's only ever been submitted 3 times. He's gotten 14-10 with a no contest in the UFC. It's absurd to think he debuted when he was 7-0 way back in the year of 2013. Wow. Crazy. He was undefeated up until he took on Tyron Woodley in 2015. Some other notable fighters he's taken on: Neil Magny, Johnny Hendricks, Tim Kennedy, Chris Weidman, Michael Bisping, Israel Adesanya, Darren Till, Robert Whittaker, Jared Cannonier, Sean Brady, Joe Pyfer, you name it. Okay, he went 1-1 last year, lost to Joe Pyfer, and then a win at UFC Noche over Dustin Stolfus. Very interesting. He ended up beating Dustin Stolfus, winning probably about 2 of the rounds minimum. Some could argue 3, but got the job done. And to be fair, Calvin's losses have came against Joe Pyfer, Sean Brady, Jared Cannonier, and Robert Whittaker in the last 5 years. His wins: Chris Curtis, Dan Rodriguez, Dustin Stolfus. So I think Vicente Luque falls somewhere good in the middle. Now, for Vicente Luque, he's on the tail end of his career. He peaked in 2021, and since then it's been an unfortunate downhill spiral for him. Also, 34 years old from Brazil. 20 of his 23 wins are by finish. That's what we love to see. 11 knockouts, 9 subs. And of his 12 defeats, he's been finished 5 times. He's got a stellar 16-8 in the UFC and was oddly supposed to fight Kyle Dawkins on this card. Instead, they said, Kyle, how about instead of fighting Vicente Luque, you go fight Bo Nickel at the White House card? And he goes, okay. And now we have Calvin Gastelum versus Vicente Luque. Luque's been with the UFC since 2015, and, had always kind of been good. He had always been a talented fighter. At one point, he was 10-2 in the UFC. I can even say at one point he was 14-3 in the UFC. He was on a 4-fight winning streak, all finishes, and then ran into prime Belal Muhammad in 2022. After that, his career was never the same. Gets knocked out by Jeff Neal, bounces back a year later, defeating Rafael dos Anjos, then gets knocked out by Joaquin Buckley in what felt like a thrown fight, if I'm being honest. Last win was December 2024 when he submitted Themba Gorimbo in 52 seconds, but last year, submission loss to Kevin Holland and a boring decision loss to Joel Alvarez in Brazil. So we'll see what goes on here, but I'm going to be honest. Calvin Gastelum's the favorite. Calvin Gastelum's coming off a win. Calvin Gastelum has not really been impressing me, if I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to be honest. He just hasn't really been impressing me with stuff. And I honestly weigh Vicente Luque going the distance with Joel Alvarez more so over Calvin Gastelum picking up a decision win over Dustin Stolfus. So I know this is probably a dumb decision. I know I'm going to pick way too many underdogs on this card. Like, I'm talking like right now as I look at the card, I'm picking an absurd amount of underdogs. But I got to go with Vicente Luque here. All right, I got to ride with my boy Luque. I've always been a fan of Vicente Luque. I've never been a fan of Kelvin Gastelum. Nothing personal against the guy. I've just never rooted for him. And here, Vicente Luque, make or break fight in his career. He's probably going to get cut if he loses. Now's the time to win. Give me Vicente Luque to get the job done. Dare I say, by submission. After that, we're in the men's lightweight division, making a run of all the divisions to kick off the card. Chris Taco Padilla takes on Markel Medeiros. Chris is 17-6. Markel is 11-1. 1 inch in height goes to Markel. A notable 5 inches in reach goes to Padilla. They both fight in the orthodox fighting position. Markel Medeiros is the underdog at plus 170. Chris Padilla is the favorite at minus 195. We'll start with Medeiros. He is 29 years old from Colorado and is currently on a 9-fight winning streak. Very impressive work. Of his 11 wins, he has 6 by knockout, and he was actually supposed to fight Nazim Sadikov on this card, and instead Nazim had to pull out, so in steps Chris Padilla. Markel is currently 3-0 in the UFC. He is a Season 7 veteran of the Contender Series, where he landed a 4-minute knee knockout to Isa Isakov. So far in the UFC in 2024, he picked up a decision win over Landon Quinones, and last year defeated Austin Hubbard and Mark Choinsky, both by decision between March and June. I don't really know what much really to say about Markel Medeiros. He hasn't really done anything impressive, I would say, if I'm just being honest. He really hasn't done much, if I'm being honest, so it's kind of hard to weigh, how good he's going to do, but I will say Chris Padilla has been on a tear since coming into the UFC. He is 4-0 in the UFC. The 30-year-old from California is on a 7-fight winning streak and has 14 of his 17 wins by finish, 9 KOs and 5 subs, and he's only ever been finished 3 times of his 6 defeats. His wins include James Lontop, Rong Zhu, and last year defeated Jai Herbert and Ishmael Bonfim. The Ishmael Bonfim was actually a TKO in November. Very impressive work there. So this is flip of a coin. All right, this is about as close as it gets. Now, I really don't have much to go off of here. I'll be honest. Chris Padilla has that reach advantage there, but I will say, honestly speaking, do I think every underdog is going to open the card with a win? I don't know, but really, Chris Padilla looked impressive to me. It's not that Markel didn't look impressive, but I think he's just been fighting tin cans. If I'm being honest, he's fought freaking jack no one. So I'm going to ride with Chris Padilla. I've been picking him so far, and I would feel kind of bad not riding with Chris here, especially after I watched the Ishmael Bonfim fight. And I can guarantee if we go back to whatever episode we recap that event on, I said I'm never picking against Chris Padilla in the future. So we're going to reference back to that and hope that's the case because, we're picking Chris Padilla to defeat Markel Medeiros. On to the women's strawweight division. It's so funny. This is a prelim, like the 4th prelim in, and this is literally the number 2 and number 6 women's strawweights on the planet. Where else would you see the number 2 fighter in a weight class on the prelims than the women's strawweight division? Tatiana Suarez, 12-1, the former women's title challenger, takes on Lupi Godinez, who is 14-5. 3 inches in height for Tatiana, 5 inches in reach. She fights southpaw. Lupi fights orthodox. Tatiana is minus 155. That's it. That's freaking it. Wow. Very shocked by that. Lupi is plus 135. Tatiana Suarez is 35 years old from California and has 7 of her 12 wins by finish, 2 KOs and 5 subs, and she's gone 8-1 in the UFC. Between 2016 and 2023, she was undefeated. Very impressive. 7-0, and unfortunately had to take 2 years off due to injury. I think cancer, actually. Came back at UFC 312 and got a title shot against Zhang Wei Li. Won round 1 and then proceeded to win literally nothing else. Would come back in September of last year where she would defeat Amanda Lemos by a boring 3-round decision. Actually did not look impressive on the feet, but looked impressive in the grappling there. 3 takedowns for 9.5 minutes of control time, but somehow lost round 3, which left a weird taste in all of our mouths. So Tatiana is back to take on Lupi Godinez. Lupi, 32 years old from Mexico, but now actually trains out of Canada. 3 subs. That's all she's got. She is a decision machine, as she's gone 9-5 in the UFC. Crazy to think she debuted at 5-0. Since 2021, been all right. Been here, been there. In the last year, defeated Julia Pilastri and Jessica Andrade. So she is in this position by defeating Jessica Andrade. And her last 2 defeats in 2024 were to Mackenzie Dern and Virna Jandiroba. So we'll throw her a bone, for goodness sakes. But I got to go with Tatiana Suarez. I feel like this is going to be band for band the exact fight we just saw with Virna Jandiroba and Tabitha Ricci, where I just don't think Lupi Godinez is ready for someone of Tatiana Suarez's caliber. Now, happily prove me wrong, Lupi. Prove to me you belong, but Tatiana Suarez is a world beater. She wants a title fight, for goodness sakes, and if she wins this fight, she may just get a title fight. So give me Tatiana Suarez by decision. Dare I say I could see a submission win, maybe like a guillotine or something. Moving on up to our next lightweight fight. It's a banger. It's a freaking banger as the number 8 ranked lightweight on the planet, Matus Gamer Gamrot, takes on El Gringo Esteban Ribovics, another Argentinian in action. Matus is 25-4 with 1 no contest. Esteban is 15-2. Both men are 5'10", 1 inch in height for Matus. He fights southpaw. Esteban fights orthodox. This is very even. Gamrot is minus 160 on the odds. Esteban plus 125. Matus Gamrot looking to bounce back from his loss to Charles Oliveira in Brazil, where he was handsomely dominated, I will say. The 35-year-old from Poland trains on American Top Team and has 13 of his 25 wins by finish. Not too bad, I guess. He went a very impressive 13-0 in KSW before joining the UFC in 2020, where he lost his debut by split decision. A fight he shouldn't have lost, by the way. Would follow it up with 4 wins, including a win over Arman Sarukian before dropping a decision to Benil Dariush. He would follow that up with 3 straight wins before losing to Dan Hooker in one of the best fights of 2024. Last year, defeated Ludwig Klein in an unofficial main event. It was supposed to be co-main event, but we all know about the UFC May 31st card between Blanchfield and Barber. And then ended the year having to take on Charles Oliveira in Brazil. I don't know who thought that was fair for sweet Matus Gamrot, but he managed 11 significant, or actually he managed 18 significant strikes and landed a takedown. That's all I can say, though, as Charles promptly submitted him in round number 2. So Matus is back, he's hungry, and he takes on Esteban Ribovics. Esteban is 29 years old from Argentina. He has 12 of his 15 wins by finish. And man, he is an absolute animal, okay? Came into the UFC off of Season 6 of the Contender Series, drops a decision in his debut, wins a fight against Kamala Kirk. Okay, you're fine. But then, the 37-second head kick knockout of Terrence McKinney in 2024 propelled him to stardom. He would then have a Fight of the Year contender at UFC 306 against Daniel Zaluber. He would then have one of the best Apex fights last year against Nasrat Hakbasrat. He would then have another Fight of the Night against Elvis Brenner. This man is riding a 3-fight Fight of the Night bonus streak, so you already know he's going to bring it to Matus Gamrot. Now, my only issue with Esteban, I'm yet to see his grappling tested a lot. Okay, we can look at his debut 3 years ago when Loic Radzhabov grappled him to death. We can look at the Kamala Kirk decision, which landed Kamala Kirk. I can't believe. Never mind. I'm not even gonna touch on that. Landed 3 takedowns, and Nasrat Hakbasrat landed a takedown, which was kind of the deciding factor in that Esteban fight. So I don't know. I really like Esteban Ribovics, but I honestly think that this might just be too big of a jump. It's given Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan vibes. Okay, I think Esteban is good, but I think Gamrot utilizes the grappling here. I think he gets booed by the crowd, and he grapples his way to a decision. Give me Matus Gamrot over Esteban Ribovics, and I don't say that with pleasure, but hey, we'll see Esteban. Bring it. Let's do it. Maybe it'll be another Fight of the Night. With that, we get into our second to last prelim as Kevin the Trailblazer Holland takes on Randy Rude Boy Brown. We're making the rounds of random welterweights who have not fought each other on this episode. Kevin Holland and Randy Brown. Both are 6'3". Both have had over, actually, Kevin's 28-15 with a no contest. Kevin's approaching 40 professional fights. As for Rude Boy Randy, actually, Kevin's over 40 fights. Kevin's approaching 50 fights, for goodness sakes. Randy's at 27 pro. 3-inch reach for Kevin. That's about all I can really point out here. Kevin is actually the underdog at plus 120. That literally is a lock. I can't believe Kevin Holland's the underdog. Randy Brown is the favorite at minus 140. Kevin Holland, oh my sweet Kevin Holland, 33 years old from Fort Worth, Texas. 23 wins of his 28 have come by finish. 13 KOs and 10 subs. Of his 15 losses, he's been finished 6 times. And he's gone a very unstellar 15-12 in the UFC. Kevin Holland is just known for having one of the craziest work schedules of just all time. This man has 27 UFC fights. Okay? He debuted in 2018. All right? This man is averaging, what is 27 divided by 8 here? Let me do some horrible math for you guys to show my brain here. He's averaging four fights a year almost. All right, he's averaging, 3 for sure? He's probably averaging like 3.5 fights a year. over the last 6 years. Scratch that, 8 years. Goodness me. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I mean, guy's a legend of the game. At one point, he went 5-0 in 2020. Fighter of the year, in my opinion. We'll follow that up on a rough losing streak. Of course, 2022 ends with a kind of craziness. He has 2 finishes at welterweight, then loses to Hamzat and Wonderboy in a 4-month span. 2023 lands 2 great finishes before dropping a split decision to Jack Della Maddalena, which I honestly thought he won. Boring decision against MVP in 2024, including an armbar of Michael Okajacek, then an injury loss to Roman Dolidze. 2025 last year, my man's fought way too many times. He put in 5 fights and went 2-3. Not it. Took on Rainer de Ritter, we'll give it to him. Took on Gunnar Nelson and absolutely killed him. Then submitted Vicente Luque with his signature choke. July, took on Daniel Rodriguez, one of the most underrated fights of the year, absolute banger. And then lost just a weird fight to Mike Mallet in Canada. Just boring, just dull. Ended up winning, I'm pretty sure, the final round or something. I don't know. It was rough. It wasn't entertaining. And Kevin needs to redeem himself with this fight against Randy Rude Boy Brown. Randy Brown, 35 years old from Queens, New York. He's got 13 of his 20 wins by finish, 8 knockouts, 5 subs. Of his 7 defeats, he's been finished 5 times, and he's gone 14-7 in the UFC. Randy Brown has always just kind of been, not quite there, right? Wins his debut, then loses, then wins 2 fights, then loses to Bilal Muhammad, then wins, then loses, then wins 2 fights, then loses to Vicente Luque, then wins 4 fights, then gets finished by Jack Della Maddalena. Then wins 3 fights, then loses a somewhat bogus decision to Brian Battle. In 2025, he had one of the best knockouts of the year in a fight of the night against Nicholas Dalby, but then took on Gabriel Bonfim in a main event and was honestly doing pretty good until he got caught with a knee and his lights went out. So I actually think that Randy Brown is a very good fighter. He's going to be one of the tougher fighters Kevin Holland's fought recently. But going from fighting Mike Mallet and Daniel Rodriguez and Rainer de Ritter to Randy Brown, I don't want to say it's a step down, but I certainly think it's more winnable for Kevin. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. He's fun to root for. Who doesn't love themselves a little Kevin Holland? And I would also be upset if I predicted Randy Brown and Kevin won. So I'm generally going to pick Kevin because I don't want to be wrong. I want Kevin to win, and I will hope that he wins. With that, we get into the final prelim of the night. I can't even believe they're making this fight, but it is fantastic. As the number 13th ranked men's featherweight, the Pitbull Patricio Ferreira takes on Aaron Pico. They've decided to take 2 of their Bellator debutees who had lackluster debuts and throw them against each other. Recipe for success, if you ask me. Patricio Pitbull coming in as the plus 250 underdog. Aaron Pico minus 300 favorite. Aaron is 13-5. Patricio Pitbull 37-8. 2 inches in height for Aaron, along with 3 inches in reach. They both fight orthodox, and yes, there is an 8-year age gap between these guys. Actually, I think 9 if you actually break it down by the months between when they turn 40 or whatever. I don't know what I'm saying, but there's an age gap between these 2. It's going to be crazy. Patricio Pitbull, currently ranked at number 13, is ranked at number 13 because of a win over Dan Ige. He debuted last year. Pitbull, 38 currently from Brazil, 24 of his 37 wins by finish. Of course, legend in Bellator. Only been finished 3 times in his career. Was originally supposed to fight Losine Kita in Paris, but unfortunately Losine actually came in overweight, and Patricio Pitbull turned on the fight. So here he is taking on Aaron Pico. We covered him twice last year. Obviously had the awful debut against Yair Rodriguez, and then put up the just awful performance against Dan Ige. Literally just grapples him to death through the first 2 rounds, and then round 3 loses it by being outstruck. So made absolutely no sense. Patricio Pitbull is just past his prime. He was a killer in his prime, but he's 37. Past his prime. His opponent, Aaron Pico, is coming to take his head off. Oh my goodness. Aaron Pico, 29, Cali, 11 of those 13 wins by finish, including 9 by knockout. And of course, of his losses, he's been finished in all of them, 4 by knockout, once by sub. He was actually supposed to fight Mosfar Evlov July 26 in Abu Dhabi. Mosfar pulled out of that. That fight never came to be. So instead, we had the legendary knockout, Leron Murphy versus Aaron Pico. Now, a lot of people forget about that fight is Aaron was winning it up until Leron landed the elbow. And I don't want to say after watching Mosfar versus Leron that it feels like a Leon Edwards head kick, but it almost feels like Leron Murphy's spinning elbow is like a Leon Edwards head kick. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it, but we'll see how Pico does, because Patricio Pitbull described him the most perfect way. He has the knockout power of a gorilla, and he also has the chin of a mouse. That wasn't the exact, quotations he used. But basically, Aaron Pico can knock you out, but also be knocked out. So I'm very curious to see how this goes. I'm not picking Pitbull whatsoever. I am definitely riding with Aaron Pico. I refuse to waste Aaron Pico here in the UFC. We already saw Patchy Mix. You gotta go. We've seen Michael Chandler go on a downward spiral. We are in need of Bellator guys to make the jump, and it'd be weird to think that Pitbull could win this fight. So we're gonna go with Aaron Pico to get it done, but either way, you're gonna see a Bellator guy get a win in the UFC. Unless it's a no contest or a draw, then I guess I'll be completely wrong. Next up, we get into our main card, and I hope they're gonna show this on CBS. Sometimes they do. We'll have to see, but kick off the card is a retirement fight. The legend Cub Swanson is going to retire in Miami. I love it, man. I love it. We'll see how he does. The 30-14, 44-fight veteran. I believe, don't hold me to this, but I'm pretty sure he announced he's retiring here with his 45th professional MMA fight. And it'll also be his 26th fight in the UFC. For Nate the Train Landwehr, he is 18-7. He's gone 5-5 in the UFC. He is, of course, the favorite, actually, minus 145. Cub, the plus 120 underdog. 1 inch in height for Nate and 2 inches in reach for Nate as well, as they both fight orthodox. Cub Swanson legend. Absolute legend. Throw him in the Hall of Fame just for the heck of it. I mean, he is 42 years old. All right, of course, from Cali. 13 KOs and 5 subs. Give him 18 of his 30 wins by finish. And of his 14 losses, he's been finished 10 times. Yeah, that's not the best thing. And, Cub Swanson just had a crazy career. Really has. I mean, where to begin with this guy? This guy was fighting back in the WEC back in 2007. He's actually taken on Jeans Pulver, Jose Aldo, Chad Mendez, Ricardo Lamos, holds a win over Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier, has taken on Max Holloway, he's taken on, Brian Ortega, Renato Moicano, legends of the game, and, over the last 5 years or so, been pretty inactive, but, last year, wasn't able to get a fight in 2024, had a split decision fight of the night, lost to Andre Fili, and a round 3 knockout of Billy Quarantillo, which was absolutely legendary, caught him with a hook and just slumped Billy down to the mat. I mean, lights were out cold. It was awesome to see. And Cub, he's back. Year and a half later, let's do it, Cub. We'll see how you do. But you're taking on a guy who literally brings the same style as you. Nate Landwehr is just coming to stand and bang. That is what Nate the Train is all about. Now for Landwehr, 37, and he's 5 years younger than his opponent. It's crazy. Fighting out of Tennessee. Let's go. I might have to root for Nate Landwehr because I'll be in Tennessee. He's got 11 of those 18 wins by finish, 9 KOs and 2 subs. Of his 7 defeats, he's been finished 5 times. Nate Landwehr been with the UFC for 6 years now. Wow, he's already crept up on 6 years. Just basically been in a dogfight every single fight. I mean, the David Onama fight was one of the craziest fights of 2022. Might have won fight of the year in 2022. Of course, he's been knocked out in crazy fashion by Julian Erosa and Herbert Burns. He's also knocked out guys like Jamal Ewers in crazy fashion. He's had amazing fights against Dan Ige. Ended 2024, sadly losing to Dooho Choi, and his lone fight last year against Morgan Cherie in Tennessee, he unfortunately lost by round 3 knockout. But that was a fight of the night. That was an absolute war, and Morgan Cherie was just on one that night. And of course, Nate was hanging his chin out for no absurd reason. So we'll see what happens in this fight. It's really a coin flip. I don't know if Cub is going to get his like fairy tale ending, but I don't know. I think just because I'm in Tennessee, that's literally the only reason I'm doing this. I'm going to go with Nate Landwehr. Okay, literally the only reason I'm going to go with Nate Landwehr. And here's the positive. I'll be in Nashville cheering for Nate Landwehr. And on the plus side, if Cub Swanson wins, he wins his retirement. That way it's a win-win, so I'll feel happy for him nonetheless. But I also see Nate Landwehr getting this done. I just think Cub has taken a bunch of damage. He's been out longer than Nate has. And to be honest, they've both been out quite a while from the octagon. So we'll see how this goes. But I am going to go with Cub Swanson to lose to Nate Landwehr, maybe by knockout in his final MMA fight. Next up in the men's light heavyweight division, we have Johnny Walker and Dominic Reyes, the number 10 and number 12 fighters on the planet. This one is very interesting. Dominic Reyes minus 120 on the odds. Johnny Walker plus 160, very close. The Devastator, Dominic Reyes 15-5. Johnny Walker 22-9. with a no contest. 2 inches in height go to Johnny Walker, 6'6" to 6'4". They're very tall. He also has 5 inches in reach, 82 to 77. He fights orthodox. Reyes fights southpaw. For Dominic Reyes, it's been an interesting run as of late for the 36-year-old from California. He's got 12 of those 15 wins by knockout, including 10 by KO, but man, he can just not catch a break. After snapping his 4-fight losing streak in 2024 and 2025, he unfortunately ran into the main eventer of tonight's show, Carlos Ulberg, to end out the year last year, getting knocked out in round number 1. Before that, though, he had knocked out Nikita Krylov, Anthony Smith, and Dustin Jacoby, so not too shabby. I will say Dominic Reyes did appear to be a bit better than Dom, and, he did have the power punching to go with it, but, I don't want to knock him too much. I just think Reyes fits into a certain category now in his career, and it's in that kind of, 6 to 12 range in the rankings. So we'll see how he does against Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker comes into this one, 34 years old, from Brazil, but now trains out of England, specifically SBG Ireland. Same gym as Conor McGregor. 17 KOs and 3 subs give him 20 of 22 wins by finish, and of his 9 defeats, he has been finished 7 times. He actually snapped his 2-fight losing streak last year when he defeated Zhang Mingyang in a main event in August in China. Kind of a little comeback victory, if you will. He literally chopped up Zhang Mingyang's leg to the point he couldn't even stand, and he TKO'd him. Johnny Walker, been with the UFC now for 8 years, and 2024 was very tough to him, getting knocked out by Magomed Ankalaev and Volkan Ozdemir. Took some time off, got the win against Zhang Mingyang, and now he is back. Now, what do I think for this contest? I do think Dominic Reyes. I still think Dominic Reyes. I think he's got the punching power. I think he knocks out Johnny Walker, but really, anything could happen. Either of these guys could take each other out, but I do like Dominic Reyes' striking power as opposed to the wild style of Johnny Walker, and we'll have to see. All right, both of these guys kind of ended their years on the opposite ends of the spectrum, one getting a knockout, one getting knocked out. Who will bounce back and who will rise? We'll have to see, but I am going to go with Dominic Reyes. With that, we get to the third to last fight of the evening as the number 5 ranked Curtis Blaydes, the number 5 ranked heavyweight fighter in the world in the men's heavyweight division, takes on the unranked Josh Hokett. What a switch up for Josh Hokett here, all right? We'll get to this in a second, but Curtis Razor Blaydes is 19-5, 1 no contest on the record. Josh Hokett is 8-0. 3 inches in height go to Curtis, 6'4" to 6'1". He also has a 7-inch reach advantage, 80 to 73. They both fight orthodox. Curtis Blaydes comes in only -145. Hokett plus 120. Blaydes is 35 years old from Chicago, Illinois, and actually fights at Naperville, I'm pretty sure. He has, 13 KOs of his 19 wins, and all 5 of his losses have come by knockout. He's gone 14-5 in the UFC. As of late, in the last 2 years, he went 1-1 in 2024 and 1-0 last year. Picked up a win in June over Rizvan Kuniev by split decision. Curtis Blaydes, legend of the game, been with the UFC now a decade. We'll see how he does when he takes on Josh Hokett. And as I was about to say, Josh Hokett came off of Season 9 of the Contender Series, the best season so far I've ever seen. The 28-year-old is from Fresno, California, and all 8 of his victories have come by finish, 5 KOs and 3 subs. Now, debuted in November in the UFC, round 1, 56-second knockout. Fought this year earlier in January, took on Denzel Freeman, knocked him out with a second left in the round, in round number 1. Both of those fights performance bonuses. He beats up 2 bums. And they say, let's give you Curtis Blaydes. Okay, this is an insane jump. Now, I do know why they're having him take on Curtis Blaydes. Josh Hokett is a grappler. Curtis Blaydes is a grappler. But Curtis Blaydes, we have to understand, has been fighting absolute killers over the years. Tom Aspinall, Halton Almeida, Sergey Pavlovich, Derek Lewis, Alexander Volkov, Francis Ngannou. He has been fighting the best fighters in the world. Hokett's fought nobody. And I just think this is such a premature jump for Josh Hokett. This shouldn't have happened. Josh Hokett should have at best taken on Shamil Gaziev at number 13. But no, they're throwing him way too far in over his head here. If he beats Curtis Blaydes, I'm actually going to be so surprised. And this because as someone who doesn't even hate Josh Hokett, I just genuinely would be so shocked. So easily going with Curtis Blades here. I think Razor can still get it done. Plus he fights out of Chicago. That's my city. So got to be repping Chicago. Curtis, go get it done. Dare I say knocking out Josh Hokett or something? I just do not see Hokett winning this. And please prove me wrong, Josh Hokett, but I'm riding with Curtis Blades. With that, we get into the men's light heavyweight division as the number 14th ranked middleweight Paulo Costa takes on the number 6 ranked light heavyweight Azamat Murzakanov. Very interesting choice here for Azamat to have to fight someone debuting in the division, but hey, beggars can't be choosers, or the saying goes. Azamat, the professional, Murzakanov is 16-0 undefeated. Paulo the Eraser Costa is 15-4. Paulo's got about 2 to 3 inches in height on him and only 1 inch in reach. He fights orthodox, and Azamat fights southpaw. Azamat is, of course, the minus 190 favorite. Paulo is plus 150 as the underdog. Azamat Murzakanov, the number 6 ranked fighter in the light heavyweight division, has been on an absolute killing spree. He's probably the oldest prospect you'll ever see at 36 years of age. He's from Russia, but now trains out of New Jersey, and 12 of his 16 wins have come by finish. Actually, scratch that, 13. All right, he's gotten 12 knockouts and 1 sub. Azamat debuted in 2022 and was just kind of inactive. 2 fights in 2022, 1 fight in 2023, 1 fight in 2024, but last year knocked out Brenson Ribeiro and Alexander Rakic both in round 1. The Alexander Rakic one was insane, as it took him only 3 strikes. 3 significant strikes to knock out Alexander Rakic. Literally clipped him with a jab almost. 1 follow-up punch, game over. So, Azamat Murzakanov is an absolute savage, and he'll welcome Paulo Costa officially to the light heavyweight division. Paulo Costa, we've known him for a while. 34 now. Wow. It's crazy. Time has passed, and he is no longer a rising prospect. No, he is an old gentleman now, you could say. 11 KOs and 1 sub give him also 12 finishes of his 15 wins. I forget, Azamat has 12 knockouts, 13 finishes overall. Paulo is 7-4 in the UFC and was actually supposed to fight Bruno Ferreira at UFC 326, but pulled out of that fight. Instead, Bruno got knocked out by Gregory Rodriguez. And this man has had a whopping 9 canceled fights in the UFC. Mind you, he's had 11 fights in the UFC, all right? He's almost had more canceled fights than real fights. Paulo Costa at one point was undefeated, a perfect, 13-0 before he ran into Israel Adesanya. He would pick up a win in 2022 over Luke Rockhold before going on a 2-year hiatus, coming back in 2024, losing to Robert Whittaker and Sean Strickland. He would have 1 lone fight last year, defeating Roman Kopilov by unanimous decision. He would actually win the first 3 rounds, and at best, might have lost round 3, but that was it. Paulo Costa now moves up to the light heavyweight division to take on Azamat Murzakanov. And I'm going to be honest, this is similar to the Curtis Blades fight. What are we doing, UFC? Is there any chance Paulo wins? It would be insane if Azamat Murzakanov defeats all the people he has and loses to Paulo Costa. I would be really upset at that. But hey, anything can happen. That's all I'm going to put it. But I got Azamat winning. I think the punching power is with him. I think he packs something in those Russian fists. 36 years old, still knocking boys out left, right, and center. So Azamat, do what you got to do. I think he knocks up Paulo Costa. Should be an entertaining fight. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we get into the main event. As the number 2 and number 3 light heavyweights throw down Jiri Prochaska and Carlos Blackjack Ulberg. Jiri, 32-5-1. Carlos, 14-1. 1 inch in height goes to Carlos. 3 inches in reach go to Jiri. Both men fight in the orthodox fighting position. As of right now, Jiri is the favorite, minus 135. Carlos, plus 110, is the underdog. For Jiri Prochaska, the 33-year-old from the Czech Republic, he's a legend of the game. KSW, actually Risen, I think he fought in Risen, absolute legend over there, champion, double champion. He's had, of course, a record 31 of his 32 wins by finish. Crazy. And of his 5 defeats, he's been finished in all of them. People forget, Jiri Prochaska has been in the UFC now 6 years, and lo and behold, this is going to surprise a lot of you, is only 6-2 in the UFC. I think people are very surprised by that. Mind you, absolute legend. Last year had 2 round 3 knockouts, including my comeback of the year against Khalil Roundtree Jr. The only man to ever beat him in the UFC is Alex Pereira. Knocked him out in round 2 both times. Other than that, he's defeated Volkan Ozdemir, Dominic Reyes, Glover Teixeira, Alexander Rakic, Jamal Hill, and Khalil Roundtree Jr. So you know him, you love him. Jiri, he's one of my favorite fighters, if not my favorite in the UFC. Taking on Carlos Ulberg, who is new to this spotlight. He has had one main event, of course, the win over Dominic Reyes in September back in Perth. But other than that, kind of been flying under the radar on a lot of people. The 35-year-old is from New Zealand and is on a 9-fight winning streak. Trains at City Kickboxing and has 9 of his 14 wins by finish. He, of course, came off of Season 4 of the Contender Series with a round 1 knockout and would debut somehow getting finished by Kennedy Nchukwu. I think a lot of people forget about that. He would follow that up with an insane 9-fight winning streak, including round 1 knockouts of Tafon Nchukwu, Nikola Nurkaminov, Iro Portera, Alonso Metafield, and most recently, Dominic Reyes. Also holds wins over Volkan Ozdemir and Jan Blachowicz. The Jan Blachowicz win, a very close one, very debated. A lot of people had Jan winning that. I think the correct fighter won, and Carlos Ulberg. I think that Jan took round 1, but lost rounds 2 and 3. And then, of course, knocked out Dominic Reyes. Now, I'll say for Ulberg, he's got the power. He's got the punching power. It's been evident for a long time now. He is as legit as they come. But, I'll say, there's just this one thing. There's kind of been the one thing this year. Fan favorites have been winning. All right? I have yet to see a fan favorite truly lose unless he was taking on another fan favorite. I mean, let me go through our main events here. All right? Gaethje Pimblett, Gaethje wins. Volk Lopez, Volk wins. Strickland Hernandez, Strickland wins. Oliveira Holloway, Oliveira wins. All right? This just been kind of how it's going. Now, I understand Adesanya lost, but Renato Moicano just won. So I think there's something to be said about that for the legends of the game here. Also for Jiri, it's impossible to know. He is literally, I kid you not, I think Jiri Prochazka has lost every single round 1 he's had. I know he lost round 1 against Volkan Ozdemir, might have won it against Dominic Reyes. Glover Teixeira, he was losing that fight to the final 28 seconds. Alex Pereira, obviously lost round 1 in both of those fights. Alexander Rakic lost round 1 before knocking him out. Jamal Hill might have lost round 1. Khalil Roundtree Jr. was down 2 rounds, so it's impossible to tell. I think where you're going to see Jiri come out here is if he can get past rounds 1, and especially round 1, but also round 2, I think Carlos Ulberg tires. So if you're Carlos Ulberg, you got to get Jiri out of there in the first 2 rounds. I think that's the key. Because if it goes into round 3, dare I say round 4, the later rounds are the magic for Jiri Prochazka. So I'm obviously going with Jiri. I mean, even if I generally think Carlos Ulberg packs the knockout power, there's just nothing that would possess me to pick against my boy Jiri Prochazka. I love him. I cherish him. He's one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. It's like him, Oliveira, and Patty. I absolutely love to death. So give me Jiri Prochazka, round 3 knockout, keeping the streak alive. Dare I say round 4? I could even see round 4 or something. But we are going to go with Jiri Prochazka, hopefully to win. But if Carlos wins, very deserved as well. I'd be more mad Jiri lost than like Carlos Ulberg winning, if you get my drift. But that's all I got, ladies and gentlemen, for our UFC 327 predictions. A lot of fun stuff. A lot of fun fights going down. I am looking very much forward to it. And I have one more day of work to get to before I am blessed to go on my little trip to Nashville, which my Thursday is going to be bright and early. I need clothes, guys. I need to get an oil change. I'll need gas. I need the whole shebang, and I am not really ready. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I will wish you all amazing rest of your weekend, rest of your week, and UFC 327. Let's get it. I'm looking forward to watching it, to recapping it, and guys, I'll catch you next time on the Surprise Jab Podcast.